Hi friends, welcome to my channel if you're new here, welcome back if you are a returning subscriber. My name is Brittany. On this channel I share my stupid opinions about the books I've been reading. Today's book is a horror novel, From Below by Darcy Coates. Before we get into the actual review, I do like to talk about averages on Goodreads and the Storygraph. Goodreads, it averages 4.05 with 8,600 ratings. On the Storygraph, it averages 3.99. Here are some content warnings. Feel free to pause if you need. And then we're gonna get into my synopsis, which I've paraphrased from Goodreads to ensure I don't spoil anything. Because knowing me, I would. Here we go. No light, no air, no escape. Hundreds of feet below the ocean's surface, a graveyard awaits. Nearly a century ago, the SS Arcadia vanished without a trace during a routine voyage. A strange, garbled emergency message was broadcast, but neither the ship nor any of its crew or passengers could ever be found. Now, its wreck has finally been discovered more than 300 miles from its intended course. A silent graveyard eagerly awaiting for the first sign of life. Cove and her dive team have been granted permission to explore Arcadia's rusting hull. The purpose is straightforward: explore the wreck, film everything, and uncover why the ship vanished. But Arcadia has not yet had its fill of death, and something dark and hungry watches from below. With limited oxygen and the ship slowly closing around them, Cove and her team will have to fight their way free from the unspeakable horror desperate to claim them. Once they're trapped beneath the ocean's waves, there's no going back. I saw this at Barnes & Noble when I was shopping after my birthday, and I just kept circling back to it because I read Gallows Hill by Darcy Coates and I simply adored it. And I'm always looking to add more horror to my shelf because it's not something that is very expansive in my collection. And since I know I like Darcy Coates, I was like, oh, let me add this one. We have kind of a cast of main characters. Cove is the dive team lead. She is a documentary hosting girly and she is in charge of the mission to Arcadia. Roy is her friend and cameraman. They've worked on many documentaries before together. They even like high-five each other underwater, which is super cute. Yeah, they've been on many a documentary set together. Aiden is the newbie. He's also so young. He's only like 22. Everybody else appears to be a lot older than him. He's like the baby child of the group. He was hired to be Cove's assistant and cook for the crew while they are on this mission. We also have Hesty. She is a marine biologist and she's teaching the crew why there are no signs of life at the wreck of Arcadia. Vanna is an expert diver. Largely, she explores caves. She is in charge of the safety of the team. Those are the 5 who actually dive down to the wreck. On the ship, we have Sean. He doesn't appear to like anybody. He is part of the documentary team who works specifically with ROVs, which were supposed to be what went down, but they are not working when they get close to Arcadia. And yeah, so Sean's there. His main goal was to be able to like take his little robots down and explore the shipwreck, but they don't work, so he doesn't get to do that. And then we have Devereaux. He is the owner of the ship that's taking the crew out to linger over Arcadia's wreck. He's also a historian who is quite literally obsessed with Arcadia. Now, this story kind of bounces between present day with the documentary crew and the past leading up to Arcadia's shipwreck. So we also have a couple of side characters from the past, Harland and like Captain Virgil, and there was a first officer and I can't remember what his name was, but they all kind of play an important role in the past. And there's also a man named Fitz from the past who's important, but those I would consider to be side characters, whereas Cove, Roy, Aiden, Hesty, and Vanna are like the main characters. I thought the main cast of characters, meaning the dive crew, were pretty well developed. I enjoyed Cove's character a lot. It was really nice to read about a strong female character in a leadership position. I didn't so much develop any like emotional attachments to any of them, so I think that they lacked like a little bit of depth. I didn't really care what happened to them, but I was rooting for them to figure out what happened to Arcadia and like figure out the mystery. I did also enjoy the side characters from Arcadia's voyage. They all added something to the story. I really liked the flashback chapters a lot because I really couldn't figure out what was going on. on, and the characters from the past were able to give me some sort of clue as to what was going on. But because I lacked like an emotional attachment to anybody, I didn't really care for them that much. So I did say 8 out of 10 for the characters. If you are looking for something where you feel claustrophobic while reading, this is the one for you. The atmosphere, incredible. I felt so while I was reading. It felt like I was diving with the crew. When they're underwater and Aiden specifically is freaking out and his oxygen is like depleting more rapidly than everybody else's, I was so like nervous for him. It almost felt like I was him in that instance. It was really an immersive experience, and I did double dork it. We have a female narrator for this one. I gave it a 9 out of 10 for atmosphere because of how immersive it truly was. I genuinely enjoy Darcy Coates' writing. This is, like I said, my second novel from her, and I think I will continue to add more from her to my collection. I'm pretty picky about horror, but she, at least from the 2 books that I've read from her, does it in a way that doesn't leave me feeling like sick to my stomach, because it's not excessively gory. This one and Gallows Hill, neither of them were like slasher horror. Sometimes I did find her descriptions in the book to be kind of excessive and a little bit boring, because like obviously I get it, you're underwater, there's silt everywhere, please stop talking about it. But I can't imagine like there was anything that could have been done differently for that. Like she's just trying to set up the atmosphere, you know? One thing about like where Arcadia is in this particular gulf, there's no life. So there's no algae, there's no fish, no sharks, no like sea creatures. So the silt was really the only thing that Darcy could describe. So it made sense to me at the end of the day why we were talking about silt so much in this book. I gave the rating a 9 out of 10. So I don't know if the plot is what screamed to me about this book, because I did read the back when I was at Barnes, or if it was the cover that screamed to me so much, but something about this book was like, pick me up, take me home. I literally circled around so many times back to this book debating whether or not to pick it up, because shipwreck, yes please. A paranormal element, obviously. The plot was fine. My one complaint with the plot is that it felt so slow, and then when action finally starts to happen, it's so rushed that there's not actually a lot of time spent focusing on what happened with Arcadia. Like we don't really get a lot of time explaining what happened to Arcadia. So the ending like felt so rushed. This book is 483 pages, and I think maybe 3 of them focused on what happened to Arcadia. The ending, like I said, so rushed in comparison to the rest of the book, but I did still enjoy it. I just wish that we had more than like 3 pages about what happened. And if it was even 3 pages, it might have just been a couple of quick sentences. 7 out of 10 for plot. I did sign up for Audible, and I got 2 credits for signing up, and I was on hold for Libby, and it said 8 weeks until this book was going to come through because my library only has 1 copy that they're circulating. So I just used my second audiobook credit to get this book, and I wanted to double dork it. You know, I haven't double dorked any Darcy Coates before. I wanted to see if I liked the narrator. This one was pretty fun to double dork. I have had this same complaint in 2 other books that were not published in the United States, and that is that the words don't match up in the book with the audiobook. So that's fine, but one thing I will not stand for is mispronunciation of words. She called Roy Ray at one point, and yes, I clocked it. And she also referred to the bow of the ship as the bow. And yes, I am gonna be that picky. I'm sorry. I know that it's called the bow. Other than that, there's nothing. It didn't retract from my interest. I just thought that it was important to note. So even though I felt like the writing was kind of repetitive and the plot was a little slow, I was very interested in the book. I didn't like want to put it down, and I really tore through it. What sits well with me in particular are books that have like flashing back and forth between the past and the present. I really get along with books like that. So I think that that really helped stay with my interest. And I really thought that the atmosphere was so immersive that that kept my interest alive. So I gave Intrigue an 8 out of 10 also. And I didn't really have any excessive complaints about the audiobook narrator, just those couple of little things. So as always, it's really hard for me to delve super deep into the logic of books because I feel like it gives away too much of what happens in the book. Decisions made by characters in this book made sense to me. There is one particular particular decision that Roy makes that I was like, oh my god, yeah, that makes so much sense for who he is as a character. And the same can be said for Cove's decisions. Everybody else, pretty logical as well. One thing I couldn't let go of is the logic behind what actually happened to Arcadia. It wasn't enough, and I really needed more. Especially if you're gonna sit here with a 483 page book, you need to give me more about what happened to Arcadia. It wasn't enough, but I still gave the logic an 8. I found this book to be quite enjoyable. I was thoroughly invested in the mystery. I am, of course, going to continue seeking out Darcy Coates books in the future. The narration was pretty good, and so I gave the enjoyment for myself an 8 out of 10, which brings totals to 57 out of 70, averaging 8.14. My star rating was 4.25. I think when I was talking about this in my TBR video, I thought that the SS Arcadia was a submarine. It's not. It was definitely an ocean liner similar to the Titanic. But anyway, just that clarity before I go. So I am going to go. If you like the video, please feel free to leave me a like. Let me know in the comments below if you feel like you would ever deep sea dive like 300 feet down to a shipwreck, because I don't know if I could. I think that I would freak the fuck out. If you are new here and you like this video, please feel free to stick around and subscribe. It is free for you. It is fun for me. And with that being said, I will see you in my next video. Bye.